In 2025, BMW sold 2,169,761 cars, Mercedes sold 1,800. The gap, 369,000 vehicles. That number doesn't feel significant until you understand what it means. Mercedes-Benz didn't just build the first luxury car, they built the first car, full stop. Karl Benz, 1886. The patent-motorwagen, the literal invention of the automobile. And now, 139 years later, they are being outsold by a brand that started by making aircraft engines, a brand that, in 1959, was 6 months from total collapse, a brand that Mercedes had the power to absorb, erase, and bury, and chose not to. This is not a story about cars, this is a story about empire, about what happens when a giant mistakes an underdog for prey, then turns around, and finds something entirely different standing there. To understand how BMW won, you have to understand what Mercedes was, not what it is today, what it was. In 1886, a man named Karl Benz patented the first gasoline-powered automobile. 3 wheels, a single-cylinder engine, movement without horses. The world had never seen anything like it. At the same moment, Gottlieb Daimler and Wilhelm Maybach were building their own engines in a workshop 40 miles away. 2 men, 2 visions, the same obsession. By 1924, their companies were collaborating. By 1926, they had merged into Daimler-Benz AG. The cars they produced were called Mercedes, named after the daughter of an Austrian businessman who loved the brand. From the very beginning, Mercedes-Benz wasn't just a car company. It was proof that German engineering was the finest on earth. It was status, authority, legacy. If you owned a Mercedes, you weren't driving a car. You were driving the origin of the automobile itself. BMW's origin story is considerably less glamorous. Europe is at war. Bayerische Flugzeugwerke, Bavarian Aircraft Works, is manufacturing aero engines for the German military. Powerful engines, reliable engines, the kind a war machine requires. Then 1918 arrives. Germany loses, and the Treaty of Versailles makes it illegal for Germany to produce aircraft engines. Just like that, BMW's entire reason for existing is outlawed. So, they pivoted to motorcycles, then household appliances, then farming equipment. Then, in 1928, they purchased the rights to manufacture the Austin 7, a tiny cheap British family car, and began selling it under the BMW badge. This is not the mythology of a great automotive dynasty. This is a company scrambling, adapting because it had no choice. But survival has a way of forging something harder than comfort does, something more resourceful, something that learns to fight with whatever it has. By the 1930s, BMW had found a direction. The pre-war 328 Roadster, one of the most beautiful cars ever produced, put BMW on the map. Then the Second War came. BMW's factories were bombed, their assets stripped, their machinery dismantled and shipped east as reparations. In the post-war ruins, BMW tried to rebuild. They launched the 501, a large, elegant sedan, nicknamed the Baroque Angel. Beautiful car, wrong market. Germany was broke, so they went smaller. The Isetta, a microcar, an egg on wheels, mocked globally. Then they swung back towards luxury. The 507 Roadster, a stunning open-top machine. Elvis Presley bought one, Rock Hudson owned one, a genuine cultural moment. But the 507 cost more to build than BMW charged for it. Every car sold was a financial wound. By 1959, they had shifted just 252 units, and the bleeding had not stopped. The board knew what was coming. December 1959, BMW's shareholders are summoned to a meeting in Munich. The agenda is simple. Daimler-Benz, Mercedes, has made an acquisition offer. The terms are clean. Mercedes absorbs BMW. BMW's name disappears. Its factories fold into the empire. The BMW board, staring at the financial wreckage in front of them, is inclined to accept. Why wouldn't they be? BMW was practically insolvent. The banks had written them off. The dealer network was in revolt. The product lineup was incoherent. Too small, too large, too expensive, never quite right. Mercedes, meanwhile, was a machine. The logic of the deal was undeniable. Accept. Survive quietly. Disappear into the larger organism. And that is exactly what would have happened. Except for one man in the room. A man who was almost legally blind. A man who, in the months before this meeting, had been doing something no one else in that room thought was rational. He had been buying BMW shares. His name was Herbert Quandt, a German industrialist, a major BMW shareholder, a man with severe vision impairment who could barely read the balance sheets placed in front of him. While everyone else prepared to sell, Quandt was buying, quietly, steadily. Against every piece of financial advice he received, he bought because he believed something no one else in that room believed, that BMW, given the right strategy, could survive, that there was something worth saving inside the wreckage. At the December meeting, when the vote came, Quandt refused to sell. He rallied the minority shareholders. He blocked the acquisition. The Mercedes deal was defeated by a man who couldn't see clearly enough to drive one of his own cars. The vote failed. BMW's second life began. New management installed. New engineers hired. A new strategic direction demanded. Quandt had saved the company. Now someone had to answer the harder question. What was BMW actually for? The answer came from an unexpected place. Not from matching Mercedes, from ignoring them entirely. Mercedes had claimed luxury. Fine. Let them keep it. BMW would claim something Mercedes had never thought to own, because Mercedes' customers didn't want it. The driver, not the executive in the back seat, not the chairman being chauffeured to the airport, the person with their hands on the wheel, the person who wanted to feel something. BMW's new engineering team developed what they called the Neue Klasse, the new class, a compact, technically sophisticated sedan built for driving engagement, not passenger comfort, the 1500, then the 1600, then eventually what would become the 3 Series, a surgical blade, aimed not at Mercedes' strengths, but at territory Mercedes had left completely undefended. BMW didn't need to beat Mercedes at luxury. They needed to open a battlefield where Mercedes wasn't even standing, and they did. In 1974, BMW's American division gave a brief to a small New York advertising agency. They needed a tagline. The agency was Emirati and Purist. The brief was deceptively simple. BMW drives differently. It feels different. Explain it in words. What they returned with was not a tagline. It was a declaration of war. 4 words. The ultimate driving machine, Mercedes gave you prestige. BMW gave you mastery. Mercedes was about who you were. BMW was about what you felt. The campaign spread. The tagline spread further. And by the early 1980s, something had shifted in the cultural imagination. A new aspirational profile had emerged. The young professional, the meritocrat, the person building their success on their own terms, not inheriting it. This person didn't want a car that announced old money. They wanted a car that announced earned achievement. They wanted to feel the road. they chose a BMW. Meanwhile, in Stuttgart, where Mercedes kept its headquarters and its certainty, the response was largely silence. Mercedes didn't panic. They didn't restructure. They didn't suddenly pivot to more driver-focused cars or sharper, younger positioning, because from their vantage point, BMW wasn't really competition. BMW was a niche product for a niche audience. Mercedes sold to heads of state, to captains of industry, to the ones who had already arrived. BMW sold to people still trying to get there. 2 different markets, 2 different price points, 2 different customers. That was the framing. And that framing is precisely how empires get blindsided, because the BMW customer in 1980 was not the BMW customer in 1995, and by 1995, the BMW customer had more money. By 2000, many of them were running companies, and in 2005, a number arrived on the desks in Stuttgart, a number that could no longer be explained away. In 2005, for the first time in history, BMW outsold Mercedes globally. BMW, 1,156 vehicles. Mercedes, 961,600. Gap of fewer than 60,000 cars. The margin was thin, but the margin was not the point. The direction was. The company that had been left for dead in 1959, that had been 6 weeks from being absorbed into the Mercedes corporate structure and erased from history, was now ahead. And it would not look back. BMW's 5th consecutive record sales year, way up 905,234 deliveries. BMW becomes the first luxury brand on Earth to sell over 2 million vehicles in a single year. The gap stands at 369,000 units. Mercedes didn't lose to a competitor. They lost to a company they believed they had already defeated in 1959 by choosing not to finish the fight. That decision is still costing them. To their credit, Mercedes did not simply accept the new reality, they fought back. AMG, the performance division founded by 2 rogue Mercedes engineers in a converted stable in 1967, was expanded aggressively into a full-scale weapon. Brutal, thundering machines that challenged BMW's M division on track and in showroom. Mercedes launched into the SUV market, GLC, GLE, GLS. Entire new revenue streams. They doubled down on electrification, the EQ line. Billions committed. Their marketing grew sharper. When BMW ran an ad welcoming retired Mercedes CEO Dieter Zetsche to the other side after 49 years of rival, Mercedes responded with a commercial thanking BMW for 100 years of competition. Elegant, graceful. The response of a brand that knows it is in a war and has chosen to fight it with composure. But composure doesn't close a 369,000 unit gap, and you cannot undo 60 years of lost cultural positioning with a clever ad campaign. Here's where the story becomes uncomfortable for both of them. Tesla becomes the best-selling luxury vehicle brand on Earth, not marginally. The Model Y alone outsells the entire Mercedes passenger car lineup in certain markets. Think carefully about what this means. An American electric car company, founded in 2003, is doing to BMW and Mercedes what BMW did to Mercedes in 1959, an asymmetric threat. A company that does not attack on the traditional battlefield of combustion engines, dealer networks, and heritage branding. It attacks on software, on charging infrastructure, on direct-to-consumer sales, on over-the-air updates, an entirely different front. And here is the question that should haunt the executive floors of both Stuttgart and Munich. Do they see it clearly? Or are they repeating the same miscalculation Mercedes made in 1980? Dismissing the threat because it doesn't look like the kind of enemy they know how to fight. BMW and Mercedes are responding. billions invested in EV platforms, new architectures, new software divisions. But there is a harder question beneath all of it. Can you become a software company without surrendering what made you a car company? Can BMW remain the ultimate driving machine when there's no combustion engine underneath you? Can Mercedes remain the symbol of inherited prestige when a Tesla at the same price point has a faster 0 to 60 and a larger screen? These are not rhetorical questions. These are the exact questions BMW asked about Mercedes in 1959. Can you remain the premium choice when a smaller, faster, scrappier opponent is rewriting the rules of what premium even means? BMW answered that question correctly. It took them 46 years. Whether BMW and Mercedes answer it correctly this time, that is the next chapter, and it hasn't been written yet. Every rivalry contains a lesson that has nothing to do with the industry it happens inside. The real lesson of BMW and Mercedes is this: empires don't fall from the front, they fall from the flank. Mercedes didn't lose because BMW built a better luxury car. They lost because BMW refused to fight on luxury's terms. They reframed the battlefield. They chose a different customer, a different philosophy, a different 4 words, and they captured territory that Mercedes didn't even know it was defending. This principle works everywhere: in business, in content, in any arena where a dominant player assumes their position is permanent. The most dangerous competitor isn't the one who attacks your strength, it's the one who ignores your strength completely and builds something you cannot respond to without abandoning everything you are. BMW was that competitor. The only question that matters when you close this file is who is building that right now, in your space, for your audience, while you're not watching.